Nevada's CD3 is going to be one of the most closely watched congressional races in America, and we're talking with Danny Tarkanian, the Republican candidate. Welcome to Nevada Politics Today. I'm your host, Victor Jakes. Tarkanian is a businessman, and he previously ran for Congressional District 3 in 2016. Danny, welcome to the show.
Victor, thanks for having me on.
I want to jump right into healthcare. You know, Republicans, when they got into office in 2017, wanted to repeal Obamacare. They didn't quite do it. They did repeal the mandate. What still needs to happen with healthcare?
Well, they have to make it affordable. Unfortunately, the Affordable Care Act that was passed by President Obama and the Democrat-controlled Congress made the health insurance incredibly unaffordable for the people that pay for it. Look, if you're on one of those federal subsidies where the rest of the taxpayers are paying for your health insurance, sure, you love Obamacare. But for the hardworking middle-class Americans, like my family, our health insurance has gone up from $480 per month before the Obamacare. Now it's $1,840. Our deductible was $1,000. Now it's $5,000. Our copay to see a specialist was $25. Now it's $150. Common sense tells you this isn't fair. It isn't going to work, and it's going to take away from the ability of the hardworking Americans to move up in the economic ladder.
You know, and one of the reasons it's gotten so expensive is the pre-existing conditions mandate. Last month, Senator Heller co-sponsored a bill basically enshrining that into law. Should insurance companies be forced to cover pre-existing conditions?
Whether it's, no, I don't believe you should force private insurance companies to, but we can have high risk pools, which we've had in the past, that covered people with pre-existing conditions and actually worked at a much better and cheaper amount than what the Obamacare has right now. I certainly believe that if you have a pre-existing condition, particularly if it's not your fault or your own, you shouldn't be stuck having to pay higher health insurance the rest of your life. My son, when he was 4.5, had a stroke, and for the rest of his life, he'll be under what you call that pre-existing condition. It wasn't his fault. He should be forced to pay a higher rate. But again, when you force private insurance companies to subsidize it, what do? They force it upon the people who pay for it. And that's not what's right. High risk pools would be the answer.
And so who runs those high risk pools? Is that subsidized by the federal government or states?
It would absolutely have to be subsidized by the federal government. I don't think you can force that upon the states. Healthcare is a national issue right now, and when Obamacare made it a national issue, and it has to be solved that way. You're not going to get that just from one state to the next.
And speaking of President Obama, last week he came out and announced that he now thinks Medicare for All is a good idea. It's a big transformation from 10 years ago when he basically said, no, anyone who says I support single payer is wrong. You know, Susie Lee, your opponent, hasn't come out in support of single payer. Do you think she would undergo a similar transformation if she gets elected?
Well, what has she taken? What position has she taken on it? She hasn't taken any positions except sound bites in any issue you say. We'll go down the list in education, healthcare, the border, and so forth. Susie Lee is going to toe the Democrat line. She's getting all of her money from the national Democrat leaders, including Pelosi. When you're running for office, they don't advocate single-payer system. Obama's doing it now that he's not running for office because they understand single-payer system would bankrupt this country. It'd bankrupt any state. California was going to pass, and they found out just the cost of their single-payer system was twice of their entire budget, so they dropped it. It's not the answer. We have the greatest economic system in the history of mankind, right? Anybody disagree with that? We absolutely do. And what is the basis of our economic system? It's to create more competition. You get a better product at a lower cost. Single-payer system does a complete opposite. Obamacare does a complete opposite. We need to get back to a market-based principles where you pick and choose which products you want, understand what the cost is, and then you force competition between the different providers.
And I want to talk about some of those other issues. A couple months ago, you issued a press release asking that Susie Lee return some money she received from Senator Kristen Gillibrand from New York, her PAC, after Gillibrand came out and said that we should abolish ICE. Let's go to graphic 1 and look at what Susie Lee has to say about that. While I do not support the abolishment of ICE, which protects communities as part of the Department of Homeland Security, I believe ICE, like any other federal agency, should be held to a high standard of accountability, and Congress should remain vigilant in its oversight of the federal government. Are you buying that? Does she really support ICE continuing?
Well, she supports ICE and then wants to hold them to a higher standard, indicating that they're not performing at a high standard right now. It's typical Susie Lee. She wants to play both sides of the fence and try to make everybody happy without taking a position. Look, ICE is one of the most important federal agencies that we have because they are the ones that are protecting us from people that are coming into the country illegally and people that are already here and trying to remove them. who in their right mind would want to go after ICE? Are we saying ICE isn't performing at a high level? What has ICE done? What has the members of ICE done, the hardworking people for the ICE? What have they done to lead her to believe they're not working at a high level? It's the Democrat Party wants to have sanctuary cities. They want to have open border. And they figure if ICE is there trying to stop that, they're impediment to that policy. And Susie Lee wants that policy. She was at a rally which signs were out there calling ICE terrorists and so forth. She absolutely is against ICE.
And what, President Trump has run on immigration. He's a big supporter of the border wall. Is that something that you support? In my opinion, every common sense American is in favor of securing our borders and doing it in the best way possible, understanding the cost and the effectiveness of it. Part of the securing the border has got to be a border wall. Part of it probably isn't a border wall. It's going to be other type of technology. We absolutely have to secure our borders. Who in their right mind doesn't want to control what products are coming in our country illegally or people coming in our country illegally, dangerous people possibly? Of course we want to secure our borders, and this is something that was a uniform approval by everybody in Congress, Schumer, Pelosi, all the Democrats, Clinton, Obama. They all said the same thing, that we needed to protect our borders until it became an issue with President Trump. And the debate between you and Susie Lee has become largely about debates. She challenged you to 3 debates over the summer. And let's go to graphic 2 and take a look at your response. This tweet is just too good to pass up. We have accepted every debate offered, but Susie Lee keeps declining. She is scared to death to discuss her extreme liberal positions on the tough issues. She continues to hide in her mansion and lie about me. It is a losing strategy.
God, that's well put.
So are you willing to debate her? What's happened? She challenged you to 3 debates.
Look, we've accepted every debate that's been offered to us. We've said we're going to have 3 debates minimum and 3 town hall minimums. You're missing the town hall part. She sent out a tweet asking me to sign a pledge to have town halls after I'm elected. So we said, great, let's have them during the campaign. And she's refused every single debate that's been offered to us except one by a liberal Republican hater, but more Danny Tarkanian hater, Steve Sebelius, as the moderator. I've agreed to that. I'm not worried about what Steve Sebelius is going to ask me. I say the same things all the time. Susie Lee has declined every other debate, including the most egregious one. Vegas Voice, I mean, of course, Vegas Voice, how are they not most impartial group of them all, wanted to host a debate, and one of the moderators was a Republican, one was a Democrat. She didn't like the Republican, so she said, back down, said, no, I won't show up. So then the moderator said, okay, that's okay. We'll just have the Democrat ask you questions. And she still said no.
Well, and she has launched some pretty pointed attacks against you. Let's go to graphic 3 and look at one of them. It is abundantly clear that Danny Tarkanian helped to set up multiple telemarketing scam companies. These companies preyed on seniors and caused real harm to real people. I mean, that's a pretty pointed charge. Is it true?
What do you mean by pointed? Of course it's untrue. You know that, Victor. So why would you even give that any credibility? Every single person who's followed politics of my campaigns knows it's not true. So say it like it is. The first person who said that about me said it in 2004. I won the first defamation lawsuit in the state's history.
There have been lawsuits, but I think people. I want to hear the explanation. I mean, I understand how it's being turned to a political attack.
Victor, if you want to call it pointed and give it credibility, that's wrong, and you know it's wrong. And it's not just me saying it. Like, look, any candidate can get up and say that's not true and not have any support of it. The first person who said it about me, I sued him. A unanimous jury and all of the alternates said it not only was not true, but he knew it wasn't true and he ran anyways. So what happened? Jackie Rosen ran the same exact ads. So I sued her. Now this isn't me saying this. This is a judge who happens to be a Democrat. In his order throwing out her motion said that he didn't believe the statements were true. They were substantially identical to the ones that already won the lawsuit on, and I had a likelihood of success in the merits. So now Susie Lee's running them. Why is she running them? Because the journalists like yourself here and others are not calling her out for lying like this and deceiving the public, and they know it's effective. Because if you just look at it, that's a serious allegation. But all I was I was an attorney who formed corporate work, left town, coached basketball with my father in California, and some guys got in trouble 3 years later.
Are you going to sue her?
But that's me. Of course I'm going to sue her. Absolutely.
Before the campaign's over?
I don't know if I do that, and we very well may, but when I do, that's the story. Look, I win this race talking about the issues that the people of Southern Nevada care about.
And we're going to have to leave it there. Danny, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching. Remember, if it involves Nevada politics, we're talking about it right here on Nevada Politics Today. I'll see you next week.